When I was younger, I lived in Oklahoma, so I decided to do my presentation on the Indian Removal Act because Oklahoma was where the Native Americans were forced to go when they were made to relocate to the Indian Territory that is now Oklahoma. There are several online sites that have information on the Indian Removal Act. The State of Oklahoma online site says that the word of Oklahoma comes from the Indian words meaning red people. It is kind of interesting when you think about how the Native Americans back in history have been helpful to the colonists when they first came to this country that made it so the colonists could survive, and how they ended up being treated by the United States in the end, like Pocahontas and Sacagawea and Squanto. Before the Pilgrims came, Squanto had been kidnapped by European merchant ships that had come to trade in the New World, and he was taken to Europe and shown to the people there as an exhibition. He was able to escape, and when he was found by some monks who took him in and cared for him and taught him English. Then later they helped him find a ship to come back to his home in America and his village and his family. But when he got back to his village, it was empty because all of his family and the people of his village had died from a white man disease. Squanto could have been angry and taken it out on the Pilgrims when they landed in the area where his village had been and wanted to move in. He chose not to hate the innocent Pilgrims and instead to help them. He was able to speak English and help them make a treaty with the Indian tribes there. It is too bad that the United States government didn't follow this example of living peacefully together. The colonists probably would have not survived without the help of these Native Americans. But in 1830, when the Indian Removal Act was passed, even the peaceful Indians were forced to relocate to the Indian Territory of Oklahoma. There were 5 tribes in the southern states area that were considered to be civilized tribes because they had written language and lived in towns and had schools and owned plantations. They had adopted the lifestyle of Europeans and their mixed ancestry, but they were forced to leave their property and march 900 miles in the winter to Oklahoma. The historical letter that Cherokee Chief John Ross had written to the U.S. Senate in English shows their feelings about the Indian Removal Act. It says, "Our property may be plundered before our eyes, violence may be committed on our persons, even our lives may be taken away, and there is none to regard our complaints. We are deprived of membership in the human family. We are overwhelmed. Our cause is of liberty and of justice, based upon your own principles that we were taught by George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, our great teachers. Our hearts are sickened as we reflect on the conditions in which we are placed by the practices of unprincipled men. Thousands did die on the forced march from exposure, starvation, and disease, giving this trail its name, the Trail of Tears. When Oklahoma was made a state in 1907, the 5 civilized tribes of Cherokee, Muskogee, the Choctaw, Seminole, and Chickasaw are recognized in the state seal. It has a 5-pointed star, and in each point the seal of the government of each of the 5 tribes. There is an Indian and a farmer shaking hands, showing that they would live and work together in peace. Other tribes that were already living there were the Ponca and the Osage. On the official government site for the state of Oklahoma, it explains the meaning of the state flag. The state flag is on the background of blue to represent devotion, and in the center is the Osage Nation buffalo skin shield with 7 eagle feathers and a ceremonial peace pipe and an olive branch, representing love of peace by united people. The Indian Removal Act is not one of the best parts of our country's history, but by learning about it, we can hope not to repeat the mistakes of the past and to move to the future more aware of how to work together with peoples of different